Hey everyone, Port.exe here, and today we're actually going to finally get into the code a little bit. In the last video, we cloned my repository and we're on a particular branch, but don't worry. Towards the end of this series, I'm going to show you how to take that, create your own repository out of that, and then be able to deploy that to Vercel. So for now, you're going to be on my repository, you've cloned it, you're going to be on a particular branch, and you're going to be creating the code moving forward. But later on, I'm going to show you how to take that and create your own completely different, your own unique repository from that, upload it to your own GitHub and all that good stuff. Now, before we move forward, please, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and get today's presentation ready. So today's focus is going to be on routing. So let's talk a little bit about routing in React. So React Router DOM allows us to create different routes on the front end. And it's not to be confused with routing on the back end, because back end routing it's a similar concept, but it works differently. These routes allow us to go between different views all on the front end without any sort of back end technology. That is sort of the essence of a single page application. So if you go to one route, say the login page, and then you go to another route, say the sign up page, you're not actually going to a different URL. The URL is visually changing, but what's really happening is it's actually pulling out the view and putting in a new view without actually redirecting you to a new page, which is what makes a single page application so fast and also why everybody loves it. So we're gonna simply create a login, a sign up, and a chat component. It's just really gonna be just bare bones. There's not actually gonna be any functionality involved, but it's just gonna allow us to be able to have these different views to be able to route between so that we can make sure that the router is working properly. So we're going to take the app and we're going to go and wrap our app inside of a browser router tag. And then we're going to set up a switch tag with a bunch of routes inside of there, the three that I just mentioned. And we're going to be able to switch between those based on the current URL path. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So let's go ahead and dig right in. So I've got the application running already in my terminal. If you aren't running it yet, go ahead and just make sure you go to your project in your terminal and run npm start to go ahead and get this thing running. And in my case, it's gonna be running on localhost 3000. So I'm just gonna verify that, go here, go to localhost 3000. And as you can see, it currently says hello from Port.exe. So I know that it is indeed running currently. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off by creating that boilerplate I was talking about a moment ago. So we're gonna add 3 components. Now I'm gonna add them in 3 separate folders because I want each component to be in its own unique folder. So let's start with the login. Let's do a sign up folder. And we gotta make sure that I click new folder here. So sign up, and then create yet another folder, chat. Now each of these are gonna have 2 files in it, just like the app here. The app component has a actual React component, and then it also has an index.js file, which just exports that component so that we can import it from components instead of components/app, just like I showed you before. So let's go ahead and start with chat, create a chat.jsx file. And in here, I'm just going to add a quick little bit of boilerplate. And actually in React 17 and onward, we don't need to import React anymore in order to use React's JSX because they have their own engine. So I'm actually gonna get rid of the import and I'm gonna rename this to just be chat. So export const chat, it's an arrow function that returns some JSX. And this is just gonna say, I am the chat, so that we are able to distinguish it on the screen. So in this folder, we'll just create an index.js file that exports that. So that'll be export all from chat. Awesome. So now we have this set up. We need to do the same thing for login and sign up. Now notice in this case, I'm not adding the curly braces like I did in chat. That's because with arrow functions, you don't technically need to, if you're just returning a single line, you don't technically need to add the return statement. You can just do it like this. So I'm gonna add this right here. This says I am the login, and I need to accompany that with an index.js file, which exports that. Now, finally, we'll do the same thing for sign up. Now, if you notice, I'm adding these empty tags here. This is just shorthand for a React fragment. And so instead of typing like react.fragment or anything like that, we can just do these empty tags. It's nice, it's super convenient. With that said, go ahead and add the index.js file with it. And obviously you can totally pause because I know I'm moving quickly. You can pause and write your code and resume as you see fit. So now I have the boilerplate code for the chat, the login, and the sign up. Now what I need to do is set up our router so that we can route between these 3 components on the screen based on the URL. We need to actually wrap the entire application inside of a browser router tag. So go to your top level index.js file where we're doing this whole React DOM.render thing. And let's go ahead and import browser router, and we're gonna import that as router. So just put that little browser router as router thing here. And we're gonna import that from React router DOM. And we're just gonna take our app here and we're gonna wrap our app inside of this router tag, just like this. So now we have our app wrapped inside of our router and we have access to the functionality of the React router DOM inside of our app. So now let's go to our app component. So now we can actually start adding in the code here for the functionality to basically switch between our routes. And in order to do that, I'm gonna remove this little bit of boilerplate here and add back our little curly braces because now we're going to add in some extra code. And for later, we're not gonna just simply be returning a single line. So anywho, what we wanna return is a switch. And a switch, as you can see, I'm importing switch from React router DOM, is going to allow us to switch between routes. But in order to do that, we need to also add route tags. So I'm importing both route and switch from React router DOM. Now each of these routes are gonna get a path and a component. The path is gonna be the URL path that corresponds to which component you want to load depending on the route you're on. So let's say path is equal to /login. Well, when we're at /login, which component do we wanna load? We want to actually load in our login component. But we got to make sure that we import our login component. So let's do that. Import login from, and this is where that little piece I was talking about from our JS config comes into use from our base URL. Instead of doing .. to get out and then go into /login like this, we can actually just do components /login. But since we're exporting it, we don't even actually, what we want to do, is quickly add a index.js file inside of our components folder. Oh, we already have that. So inside of our index.js file, we want to export our 3 new components that we just added. So let's quickly add that. Sorry, I forgot that, guys. So now that we've added those 3 components, we can actually import it like this. And this is cleaner in my opinion, because now instead of having a separate line to import login and sign up and chat, we can do it all within the same import statement. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So we can say import login, sign up, chat, all in the same line. It makes it way cleaner. So now we are importing login, sign up, and chat from components. So we are loading the login component when we're on the login path. We're gonna want to load the sign up component when we're on the sign up path. And we're gonna wanna make sure that we load the chat component when we are on just the base URL, which is /. However, we wanna make sure that we add this exact term here. We wanna say exact because if we don't do this, then it's going to load it whenever we have any sort of route that has a / in it. So we don't wanna do that. Make sure you put exact here. And which component do we wanna load when we are on this path? Well, we wanna load the chat component. So I'm gonna save this and open up my browser window and let's have a look at what's going on here. So I wanna just quickly refresh. And now you can see that we are looking at something that says, I am the chat, which means we're on the chat component. And that makes sense because we're on the base URL. So what happens if I do /login? Now we're on, I am the login. And again, if we do sign up, obviously now I'm on the sign up, works as well. So we're properly routing between these 3 components using React router DOM. This is a great start for us to go ahead and start moving into some of the actual functionality of the app. All right, so now we have the router set up and we are good to go on that. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss the next part. And I hope you all have a great day.